Yeah.
There we go. Now they can hear me. Yay,
technical
audio
difficulties.
shit. Yeah. Anyway, hello everybody. We have 5 people currently viewing. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about the dearth in content. Life's been a thing, and this will always be a secondary project of mine. But we're back. We're here. I'm here with Tommy. Tommy is arguably a better player than I am, and a nice guy. And we are going to go over the WTC finals, which just finished last weekend. They went on for what, 4 days? Was it 4 days?
Yeah,
5
I think
days?
so. It was like two games a day, and just
A lot of Warhammer.
yeah, just descending on a town in Europe, playing
That's
a lot
right.
of Warhammer.
That's right. So we're going to go over the Grey Knight lists. We're going to see what went well, or which ones did well. We're going to talk about them, and then we're going to talk about how you can take some of those list building ideas and bring them into a singles environment, which still is the most popular format here in the United States. And a really good teams list is not necessarily a really good all-comers list, but we're going to talk about all of that. And if we want to get into it, Tommy, why don't you take it away with explaining more about like what the WTC is, more about teams, and especially the differential scoring, because I think that really trips people up who are transitioning from like singles to teams.
Yeah, sure. So the quick TLDR of the WTC is once a year, there's a big collection of countries that send representatives to an 8-man teams tournament. So what that means is, you get set into pods for the first, I think, half of it, and the back half it turns into like your standard bracket type of tournament. But how it differs is, when you go to a tournament, typically you get matched up with someone who, first Swiss pairing, it's like, you get matched up with someone random. If you win, you get matched up against someone who you won, you both won one. The way this is different is when, say USA is playing France, you start placing down attackers, defenders, and you actually get, in some instances, to pick who you're going to be matching up against. That can open up some interesting opportunities for list building, because you can tack a list to specifically counter a matchup. Say you want to really push score differential for custodes, you'll match up like Blood Angels into that, right? The reason that's important is because, unlike a singles environment where if you win by 1 point, that's a win, differential scoring is about pushing that score difference. So it's scored a 0 to 20 scale. If you are within 5 points of each other, you actually tie. And so you can get a 10-10 draw, or if you absolutely clobber your opponent and beat them by, oh man, I'm doing quick math here, I think it's like 40 points.
Yeah, it's 40.
You score 20 and the other team gets 0. That can change the dynamics of like how you play. In a team's environment, you're not just pushing as hard as you can. There's if you've ever watched streams of team games, like ATC, for example, was one of the big ones outside of WTC that I watched. People play very passively, and you want to have like predictable scoring, so that you end up being able to predict where your score is going to be, and because it's important within your matrix to understand, like, hey, I scored my points and got a predictable result,
Right.
because your scores are all lumped in together.
Yeah, and
so,
it's that predictability that's really, really like important too, because you may even like the meta of this gets so in depth that like you may know that you're going to like a local teams tournament, and the team to beat is like this one team, and that one team has like an excellent orc player on it, and so you'll have like somebody tech into an anti-orc list just in case you get paired into that team. Your team can put you up against that list specifically. So it's kind of like list tailoring in a way, but the way that you might be tailoring that list is that we won't give them a 20-0 win. We'll instead give them like a an 11-9 win, where we've lost less than if we just throw in a random pairing, right? So, and sometimes like that player might be so good that that's the best your team can do, is like, if we can grind them to a draw, like that's effectively a win for us. And we're hoping that the rest of the team can score more points and win us the team game overall. So it means that one player's skill is less important. It doesn't mean that player skill isn't important. Obviously, a strong team is better than a weak team. But it also opens up, like, there are skew lists you can do that just are there just to fuck with people, where they're like, what do I do into this? Like, yeah. You know, if you want to run 3 Baneblades, you know, that's like a possibility in teams, where that would be probably very bad in singles. So there's a lot more you can do.
Yeah, I think the best example of it was like Jack Harfster's 30 Terminator list that came out at last WTC, right? Specifically tailored to diffusing the Eldar matchup, which at the time Eldar just would 20-0 everybody, but the list was actually able to take that terrible matchup and get it to a 10-10 draw. And then, you know, their Eldar players able to get a 20-0, and then now your team has a pretty significant points advantage.
Yeah, and right? It's an important thing to understand too, that like team rules are that each team can only have one of each specific codex. So like so you can't have a team of all Eldari. You can't have a team of all Blood Angels. Like, you get one Space Marine player, you get one Eldari player, you get one Death Guard player, you know, so on and so forth and so forth. So, which also means that armies that are less played see more playtime in teams than they would maybe in singles, where when you have like a really strong faction, lots of folks kind of tech into that when they're trying to win GTs or win a super majors. So anyway, I think we've covered differential scoring and what it is, and then teams versus singles. Also, I should mention, by the way, if anybody has any questions about anything Warhammer related at all during this stream at any time, just dump it into chat. That's why we do this live. If we didn't want audience involvement, we would just do a nicely produced, pre-recorded video with lots of transition effects and all kinds of like shiny crap. But we're doing this live, so please interact with us. All right, so
please talk to us.
Yes, please talk to us. We're very lonely. We're Warhammer players. We're very lonely. All right, so it looks like you've made some really good notes here, and we've kind of broken this into 2 archetypes that we see for teams lists, right? You want to take that away?
Yeah. So I think right now, looking at
for Grey Knights,
for Grey Knight specifically. So the kind of 2 archetypes that I saw play out at WTC was like, you've got your kind of hybrid, almost like a take all comers list, where it's like 3 to 4 NDKs, you've got Terminators, you've got some scoring pieces with strikes and interceptors, and some librarians thrown in there. Generally the core is you've got 1 Grandmaster, 3 regular Dreadknights, a Terminator, 5-man, Drago, 2 to 3 strikes, and then from there you can kind of flex into different things, where it's like interceptors for fast scoring pieces. You might, instead of doing like a big 10-man Terminator brick, you'll do like 2 5-man Terminators with librarians. Kind of figuring out what the last 600 points of the list. There's a lot of cool options there. So one thing that was interesting was like looking at, if you haven't seen it, dirt sheets. Drago appears in 73% of all lists. NDKs, it's in every single list.
When you say list, do you mean like top, like singles and teams, like top?
Yeah, so that's basically like
4-1, or
it's like any sort of Grey Knight game that has been played since the data slate.
Oh, even like non-competitive?
Well, I mean, it's gotta be in BCP, right, to get
Okay,
picked up. But
got it. Okay.
and then you've got strikes that are in like 93% of lists. It's pretty like I think the core of like any good list is you know you gotta have strikes. Those things are awesome.
Oh
Anyways,
yeah, totally agree.
side tangent.
Yeah.
So the best example of this was Johan Testen's list. I hope I'm not totally messing that name up.
Yeah. That's
Um,
I think that's close enough. Which I can
yeah,
actually pull up on the screen if we want that like right away.
yeah,
All
sure.
right, let me go ahead and transition over. So Johan Testen's list is up on the screen right now. So we should mention so Johan was on Team France and Team France won it this year. So this is the Grey Knight player on the #1 place team. Although there are some interesting, I didn't do a deep dive into the like statistics, but there are some interesting things I want to bring up about this list afterward. This isn't the top scoring Grey Knight list, but it is the Grey Knight list on the top team, which, going back to what we said in our preamble there, might tell you that this list was built to do something differently than the other lists were. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's a pretty like kind of like what I was talking about. Like this is one of those good examples of like a couple librarians. You've got Caldor Drago, big brick of Terminators,
Yep.
strike squads for scoring, and then Nemesis Dreadknights to round it out. Right.
Yeah.
Like this is very like.
This is my style list. I like this kind of list.
Yeah, I've ran this list before, or I had a grandmaster in there instead of the librarian. It's a strong list. Like
Yeah.
if Drago actually performed for me, like he does for
Right.
everybody.
Yeah. Except
Man,
you. Yeah. No
that
one else has ever failed that, right?
that
Oh.
guy. Uh, Everybody tells me you
Yeah.
can't fail a 6-inch charge, but but this one,
92% with reroll.
yeah, I am the 8%.
Yeah, I've been the 8%, man. Like, I feel you. I feel you. Anyway.
Yeah, so it's got Sigil of Exigence, Librarian, it's got a regular Librarian. The thing that this does is it gives you a really nice Feel No Pain against Psychic. It's a good
Yeah.
anti-mirror list because you can actually use like Caldor Drago to, if you're going up against someone who slapped the sigil on their Grandmaster, Drago will kill it, and then they have a really important piece that's just cut out of their list. What's interesting about Johan's win path though is, so he won 3 games, lost 2, drew 2, right? So,
Okay.
but
How
the
much
thing about it,
how much was his losses though? Like how
that's
what's
what,
the
yeah, that's what I'm about to get to.
Okay,
So his
got it.
losses
Sorry.
were 8 to 12 for in both instances, right? So they were very close losses.
Yeah. So that's within 8 points in the non-differential scoring for those who are keeping track.
Yep. And the 2 losses, the first one was ACDC Raiders Chaos Space Marines. So
Okay.
this would be basically just like, it was Team England, a ton of the list is just like tons of cultists with some shooting, but just like tons and tons of bodies just throw out on the board and clog it up.
You'd think you think we like that, but I guess I don't know what their tech is with like feel no pains and stuff. So
the way you get around, like if someone's shooting storm bolters at you, you're taking the wounds on the 3 wound guys. If
on the
they're
accursed cultist, got it.
Yep. Yeah. You're shooting your side cannons, they're taking it on the 1 wound idiots, right? So
yeah. Okay.
it's like you can like, and it also like hits really hard in combat once it actually gets there. Like you don't think cultists are going to hit very hard, but if they've got an extra pip of AP, if they, I think they can, no, they can't get in rhinos, but they can they can do
Yeah.
like they can do some shenanigans with raiders.
So if Levi is listening right now, this is effectively the list I think he's like running right now. It's like 80 or 90 cultists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the other loss was against Scarab Cult Terminators and Beasts in Thousand Suns, which I thought was a really interesting thing. You'd think that with the Feel No Pains from the Librarians that you'd be able to do okay with that, but I think that if I remember correctly, that list took some Forge Fiends, and Forge Fiends just rip up
Yeah,
Terminators.
even though
So,
the Thousand Suns Foreign Feige are the worst, they're still very good. Oh look,
especially
Levi's in chat right now.
there he is.
I called him out.
You Beetlejuiced him into existence.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so like those, I think that you can like surge the Forge Fiends and like they're double moving, and like that's a scary threat range for something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, Forge Fiends are just like so almost their profile is almost perfectly designed to just murderize Terminators, right? Like,
yeah.
Even what is it in cover with True Silver? You're still like what? There's no reason even True Silver. You're just it's a 3-up. Okay, that's not terrible.
Yeah, because it's AP3. Cover and True Silver takes to AP1.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, it's still
but
pretty
every
good, but
fail is a dead guy, and then they have 3 shots, and then if you're running a 10-man or an 11-man, they get like
extra 6 shots.
Yeah,
it's painful, man.
It's
like
real.
I played into it recently and with World Eaters of all things, and I was like, what these things?
Yeah, and then the normal Space Marines can like do sustained or lethals, but then if they're with the Hellbrute, they could do like both or something.
Yeah, and then like if you've got some like I think like it just also had a lot of trash from what I saw on it, more than you would have in like a normal like Thousand Suns list.
Interesting.
So, like,
okay.
More scoring pieces. So
is this what they were doing now that they can't do their like bullshit 24-inch like -3 AP indirect fire flamers?
So, but I mean it's the thing that was consistent was like a bunch of Vortex Beasts. Like Vortex Beasts, they shoot hard, they've got pretty good durability. Like they're kind of a hard thing for Grey Knights to chew through.
And we do only have one Drago. So he can only kill one Warp Beast at a time.
He can only disappoint you once per turn.
once per game. It is once per game. Yeah. Anyway, so this is my style of list that I personally like to run. You got your big squad of Terminators here. For singles, the one squad of Terminators, I know what they're doing here. They're sticking one of the Libbies in there. I could take it or leave this personally. 3 strikes is fantastic. I know you and I, Tommy, we both love our strikes. Just sticky, teleporting, the 2-up save in cover is hard to shift. Because you're also threat overloading them with the Libbies, the 10-man Terminator blob, and the 3 Dreadknights. So your opponent needs to decide, like, do I kill his scoring stuff and get kicked in the teeth, or do I try to kill his stuff that's going to kick me in the teeth? And like the sticky on the strikes, especially 3 squads, can be so bonkers. So I love this list personally.
Yeah, and that was something like I think in terms of like broadly like talking list design with Grey Knights, like I think most Grey Knights players can just leave the Calidus at home, and like 20 more points, you get 10 wounds of 2-up save. It's just way better, and like so
that's what I was actually gonna say. Is like I could almost see dropping the like Terminator squad for a Calidus, but I don't like. There's a bunch of points questions I'd have to ask, and then the whole thing's up in. Stern is still very good. A question in chat from Levi is, what about Stern instead of a Calidus? It really, I mean, right now, what the Imperial Agents Codex just hit, and it said the Calidus is up to like what, 125 now?
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
right.
so more than a Strike Squad now, barely, but more. And Stern is still 90, so it really depends on when the MFM or whatever the points update is that comes out in 2 weeks, 1 week now. They try to do it when the Codex. So this weekend is pre-order, right? And then is it 2 weeks that the Codex is live, or is it 1 week?
Pre-orders, like I don't know when it's actually releasing, because it's.
Yeah. So it depends, because remember, these books are like a year and a half old. So those points are a year and a half old. They have no idea what the current meta like looks like. So when you looked at those leaks and you saw what the points were, like, those don't really matter at the moment. What about the new Vindicare is being asked in chat. I have my own opinions, but you want to take this one first?
Yeah, okay.
Tommy?
I will. I'll charge into this one. I think they're cool, right? Like I think there's a difference between cool and good. Like I would take this, like I think Grey Knights are so, like, the list can be so tight on points that like 100 points actually is a lot to work with, because it's like that can be your transition point for like turning some Terminators into Paladins, or adding in another Strike Squad, or like it's really cool and really good, and I think there's probably something there for someone smarter than myself to figure out a role for it. But
Nice.
like I don't see it being. I think it will. You'll have like really cool moments with the unit, but I don't think those cool moments will be outweighed by the number of times you roll a 1 to hit or something like that. And like you just sit there and you're like, all right.
So in 9th, and I think Levi was there for this, I was running my Death Watch, RIP. And I could take Eliminator squads in a Spectrus kill team, and then I could have a Vindicare in there, and I would have it so basically no matter where you brought your characters, I could shoot them. And that was fun and it was interesting, but like you said, there's a difference between fun and good. I don't think the Vindicare, my Vindicare has ever killed anything that wasn't like a random mook or something, right? Like, there's never been a game I've played where the Vindicare headshot the like Warlord on turn 2, and then the game folded for my opponent after that, right? The new Vindicare is very good, like ignoring Lone Op is great. The new Siegebreaker is actually makes him kind of a threat against even like big tanks if he has nothing else to really fire that at. But it's one of those things where you can't make them too good or everyone will bring them because they're amazing. But if you don't make them good enough, like it's this razor's edge, man. It's like impossible to balance a Vindicare, I feel like. Everything else has like balance, or at least the Calidus or the Calexis versus the Eversor, like those have balance built in just because they're obviously tuned to kill different things. But the Vindicare, every single army in the game has leaders. And so if you make him too good, like if you could just one-shot Asriel, like almost guaranteed, anytime you went up against Dark Angels, that Dark Angels player is going to know it. Asriel's never going to leave his deployment zone or whatever, right? So you can't make them too good. So you end up in this awkward thing where they're so swingy, where like 30% of the time they do what you brought them for, but in a GT, that means 1, maybe 2 games they do something. And the rest of the games, they're like killing an Orc Boy or a Grot or like one black like Templar Crusader or something. You know what I mean? They're good. I think they'll be fun. I think they'll be especially good and fun in Crusade and stuff, but I don't see Vindicare coming out of the woodwork for agents. I don't think that's I haven't heard particularly good things about that codex. Maybe agents can make it work. But I don't know. I don't personally see myself salivating to throw like Vindicators into my list at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation.
Yeah. Levi is saying he feels like sniper characters are a trap unless you can attach them to another squad of snipers. I feel like they almost are always leaving someone on one wound unless there are 2 to 3 normal snipers to kind of bring them down. Yeah. I don't like. Yeah, it's hard to balance, right? It's like if you've ever played Counter-Strike and there was one really good sniper on the other team, you're just like, why am I in this server? This is so unfun.
You just give them the old towering rule so they can see the entire map.
There you go.
Put them in a tower.
Oh boy.
That.
Yeah. And anti-infantry 2+, and they have a base of 9 damage, and
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway. I don't know. I think the winners of the agents thing are definitely the Calidus. I don't know why they buffed her. Like, I was reading her changes, I'm like, holy fuck, she's better. Like, she was already so good, and then they made her better. And the Eversor looks like a lot of fun now too. But the Calexis is just more anti-psyker crap. and then the Vindicare is, he's either going to be amazing for you or he's going to let you down. Those are the two things he does. Yeah. So anything more you want to talk about with Johan's list?
No, I think it's a good, like I said, it's a good, it would be, I think the bones of that list is like a good archetype for if you're trying to get to a list together that isn't, I would like to take 6 Dreadknights to a GT. Like this is a good example of what you should shoot for, right?
Yeah.
There's some flex pieces that you can put in there around, like maybe you take a GM, like a Grandmaster on foot. Maybe you take 10 Paladins instead of the Terminators. Like there's some wiggle room to like kind of make that list your own and still have it be a successful list in singles, I think.
And those points come from either removing a strike squad. I definitely believe like 2 strike squads is a minimum at this point for singles.
Yep.
And then doing something else with this Terminator squad if you want.
Yep.
So that's where your points flex is. Everything else you shouldn't touch. I know Drago lets down Tommy all the time. But I've seen Drago do stuff like he's carved open chimeras to get at the like juicy bits inside. Like like Drago can definitely fuck when he wants to.
Yeah.
It's going back to our little list here. So that was Johan's list. So he was on the first place team. Do we want to talk about the top place GK list? He came in 8th overall based on score. And it was top place GK.
One of the other, I think the other kind of archetype that I was gonna say is like the Polish teams 6 NDK and Terminators list.
Yeah, so that's like Garrett, right?
Jacob. I don't know how to pronounce
No, so Garrett Befera. Has
that
6 NDKs, and I've got that one up, so we can just switch over to it.
Yeah, so that one actually had some success in singles. That's a singles list.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll switch over anyway. There we go.
Okay.
So this is the kind of list I don't like personally. It just doesn't feel like Grey Knights to me. I know why it's good. I haven't run this yet. Anyway, it's 3 Grandmaster Dreadknights. It's 3 normal Dreadknights to start it. And then you fill out everything else. Actually, normally what you see is you then add 3 Librarians in here. He didn't do that. He instead went with Strike Squads. They're the same, like points cost. So he has 4 Strike Squads, 2 Interceptor Squads, and 6 Dreadknights. That's it. The characters are all the Grandmaster Dreadknights. The Warlord is one of the Grandmasters, which has Inescapable Wrath because he had 15 points left over. So he slapped that on there. Yeah, I like that he brought other scoring pieces because I know one of the big lists for a long time was six DKs, 3 Librarians, and like a Strike Squad, and maybe a Land Raider Redeemer or something. And that was obviously before the last points change, which was basically overwhelming the board with either high toughness, high wound count like the Redeemer, or 2-up, 4-ups with the Dreadknight. So obviously, that's a roll of the dice for every save. This does not feel like Grey Knights to me. Like Grey Knights is Terminators personally, and like power armor. But you want to talk about why this worked in singles?
Yeah, so I mean it's a heck of a stat check. Let me get the list pulled up real quick.
I've got Jacob's list from Team Poland up already, if you want it. But we can talk about that next.
Yeah. So I think the reason it works in a singles environment is like, and kind of why this archetype works in like a team's environment as well, is like it's just a lot of like 4-up saves on a higher toughness, lots of wounds, bouncing around. You can kind of focus one side of the board. How that ended up playing out in teams was it was able to power through Wolf Jail, Orcs,
that's fair,
Guard, Tyranids, Votans, Sisters, and it won all of those. And it was like, I think a good example of how like Grey Knights can go into like a flex role where they can play an even game, but if they need to push, they can push and get that 14-6 or 15-6.
We should probably talk about those 3 roles in a team environment. So so when you're building a team, right, like you want to talk with your team about A, what they like to play, and B, what play style they like, right? And usually their army is going to let you know what kind of play style they like. Like there isn't a Blood Angels player in the world who's like, I enjoy never leaving my deployment zone, right? So you could kind of figure that out. But then you have other players who play armies like Grey Knights, where right now in 10th, we're so maneuverable and we're so able to be reactive and adjust to what our opponent is doing that we're able to fill a flex role. And that's one of 3 roles. And then there's the sword and the shield, you said?
Yeah, so like sword is basically you're there to get a 20-0 and like generate that difference for your team, because like not only do you have a differential on an individual basis of like the game you're playing, your team has to get a differential and beat the opponent by a certain amount of points, right? And so if everybody gets a 10-10, or like if even up to like, I think it's like a 5-point differential or something like that, was what the WTC used. I'm not sure specifically, but
it almost never happens, but they have to have a rule in place in case it does.
Yeah, right. Well, it actually did happen a couple times. Like there were a couple of teams that ended up drawing, but like it's those 20-0s help you push that differential and make sure you do kind of reach that threshold to get a win, right? And so that's what the sword is doing, right? So think of your World Eaters player who is going to just run over the other opponent and beat them by like 100-50, right? Or Wolf Jail that traps them in their deployment zone for the entire game, right? It's like that type of thing. And then you have Shield, which is going to be a more stable, shooting for like a 10-10 or like losing by as few points, right? So I think a good example of that would maybe be like Vanguard Nids, where you're like, you play the points, you can like, you're a very high scoring, like you can score a lot of points without having to necessarily interact with your opponent, and like you're very consistent in what you're going to be delivering. Got a co-host.
I do. This is Sylvie.
Nice. And so like those are going to be in the shield roles, right? So they're think of it as like you put them out there, they're going to be scoring consistently. It's like custodes, I'm going to score X amount of points and then like hope I don't lose by too much, right?
Right.
Um
But the idea is I'm going to go score 60 points that I know the enemy can do nothing about, and the other 40 is what's up in, like, that's
Right.
what's up in the air. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Okay.
So yeah, and so like how that equates to like the first list, like, and the second list, I think Grey Knights are really good at playing, like Grey Knights can score very consistently and predictably, right? Like we're good at playing secondaries. Yeah, we're gonna have to give away a certain amount of like primary in the beginning.
Yep.
To just not lose, but like you eventually, like you're gonna have a lot of, like, I don't know if you have this experience, but like like in those very competitive games, like you're usually losing and then you'll squeak out by like 10 or 15 points.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but it's still like an 80 to 65 win, right? So
yeah. And that's why, like, for us, we're so elite, we're so expensive, and we're so cagey. So, like, all of our scoring comes at the end. So you want to play fast, and you want to hopefully get an opponent that also plays fast.
Yep.
I don't want to digress too much, but at my last RTT, my game 3, it was priority targets, and that score, like, that game is like, I think my turn 5, I went second, so I scored like 35 points or something on like turn 5. Because of the way primary is scored in that, and I went second, and I'm Grey Knight, so I can score my like secondary is pretty much whenever I want, and it was like a 30, like I was losing the game consistently, but not so hard that I knew the game was over. And then on turn 5, like I just ran away with the score and like won the game handily. But I knew that I had to play that, I had to play that way. I couldn't shove a 10-man of Terminators at like a Rogel Dorn and hope to have a good time.
yeah.
For instance. Yeah.
So that's just where you will live for the rest of the game.
Exactly. Or they fall back and shoot you with everything else, and hopefully you have 1 CP to miss away. But yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think the one list that I was curious to get your thoughts, because you played Canis a bit more, was Alejandro Serrano's list.
I did not see that one. Let me get that one. Oh, I did see this list. I just don't have it ready to go for this real quick, but I can have it in about 2 seconds right now. Done. Okay. I have it up. Yeah, it's on the screen and everything. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. Not really, but almost. So yeah, I was looking through. So what I thought was really interesting about this list specifically is, so this was, yes, Canis Rex, exactly. So, all right, I got to pull back a little bit. So I looked at all of the top 5 teams. So it went France, Spain, Poland, Sweden, and the United States. That was the order of the winners of this year's WTC. And so Grey Knights have been a potent and almost ubiquitous addition to every single team that I've ever seen. This is on low skill teams, high skill teams. Like, they always need a Grey Knights player because we do that flex roll so well, right? What's fascinating to me is that the 4th place and 5th place teams did not have a Grey Knights player at all. But all 3 of the top 3 placing teams did. So that is interesting to me. And this team, Alejandro, was from Spain. So this is the list from the 2nd highest placing team, Not the second highest placing Grey Knights list, but this is the Grey Knights list from the second highest placing team. So it's 2 Libbies, a normal Termy squad, 1 Strike squad, 3 Dreadknights, a 5-man Paladin team, which I assume has a one of the Libbies in it. Canis Rex, who is a monster. And Eversort, and now remember that was the old Eversort, that's not the new one that you've probably read about. And then Voidsman at arms. And the interesting thing for a teams list is like agents, allies, only 1 person on the team can bring a specific type of ally. So like only this person could bring in Eversort, only this person could bring a Voidsman team, right? So like maybe another team had the henchman, right? So he couldn't take those, so he fit these in instead. This list is very interesting. The librarians are obviously, you know, we know what they're there for. I assume the sigil librarian goes with the paladins. Paladins in some matchups are basically unshiftable. Because they're a 2-up save, in cover, armor of contempt is available, and they're -1 to be wounded. Where they suck are into things like Chaos Space Marine Forge Fiends, where they can just make everything lethal hits, because the -1 to wound doesn't matter. So, but teams, again, allows you to kind of pick and choose your matchup. So like you can see like, oh, that Chaos Space Marine player has 3 Forge Fiends. I don't want to play him. Like, he's a red card for me. I don't want to play that list. But this does a lot of that, like, stompy pressure. You've got some things to jump around the board to score. This librarian, I guarantee, is by himself, jumping around and scoring. Vortex is an ability, so you can use it and still do an action. You can fall back and still do it. You can... You know, like Vortex is great. And Canis is kind of like, he's 435 points, but he's kind of like a threat overload. You either need to ignore him or you need to deal with him. And I've had him swing high and low for me. I've had him go games where he fired like 1 or 2 shots from his main gun all game. But I've also had games where he fires 6 shots and then rolls all 5s for 10 hits, and you're like, holy shit, this guy's amazing. So
yeah, he vaporizes anything he looks at.
Yeah. And so, you know, he's there to, you always put him in strat reserves. You always save 1 CP to, or I guess you don't even have to. He can rep at Ingress for free because of his ability. So he's just a huge threat, which buys you time. Like he's T12, he's 22 or 24 wounds. And you don't have like rotate ion shields or anything like that you'd have from like an actual Knights list, but he's just hard to take down. Meanwhile, you have the strikes running around, the librarian like running around, the paladins all hopefully doing actions and actually scoring you points. So I would run this list. This isn't my kind of preferred style of list personally. I would definitely not bring a paladin squad. I think he might have had 30 points left and didn't know what to do with it. Because again, in a team's event, like maybe he didn't have the extra points for a Calidus, or maybe another player on the team really needed a Calidus. Because at the time of the game, the Calidus was only 100 points, so I don't know. But I can see why this did well. Like, if you're choosing your matchups, you can really choose to be KG, only present the things that either have a 2-up, 4-up, or have, you know, their T12 and 24 wounds. So even if they take a las cannon shot or 2, they can last, you know, 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah. And I think one of the interesting things about this list is like the way the scores for all the games patched out. So it ended up being 4 wins, 3 losses, but the losses, the wins were like 20-0s or like 15 fives, like really cranking the points. But the losses were 20 O's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It either scored super high or lost super hard. Right?
Yeah.
With the only exception there being like it played into guard, which was basically like 18 Bulgrin, and yeah, yeah, dude. They can sit on these points are ours now. Like,
Yeah.
and then the other two losses were against Wolf Jail, right? So like the story on like what this list does and does not do, is pretty evident. Like it just doesn't handle high durability lists because it just doesn't have it's not
Yeah,
cranking out like
I mean,
a ton of damage.
there's one thing that can reliably kill anything high toughness in this list, and it's Canis. And you're basically like you're really relying on his like I can use 1 CP for like 0. His special ability means turn 2 you're using that to rapid Engrav, and it's per turn, not battle round. So on your opponent's turn 2 you rapid Engrav him. Your turn 2 or 3, depending on like when your opponent went. You're basically just saving that to reroll the number of shots for his main gun.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's all you're doing. But like he can reliably kill like a Lehman Russ. If he gets into combat with like a Rogeldorn, he'll destroy it. Because his grippy thing, it's like 6 attacks hitting on 2, strength 20, minus 4 AP, and it's 9 damage each or something.
Yeah,
so like
it's crazy.
Yeah, he'll rip apart like Rogeldorns, and but this is it. That's it, right? Like your Dreadknights are bouncing off anything T11. I mean, they're bouncing completely off anything T11 or higher unless they get into combat. Now our tank shock sucks with them because I'm not gonna spend 1 CP to roll 8 dice.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I could see like if you went into like a heavy armor regimental Astra Militarum list, you're like your power armor and your Terminators are gonna have a great time killing a whole bunch of like Catachan. And then your vehicles are gonna die to all of their vehicles.
Yeah, because I think it was all those Bulgrin, like handful of tank commanders, a Rogeldorn, and then like some Catachans and Chimeras to hold points and do actions and stuff. And so like, I think it's just like, with these higher Dreadknight lists, one of the big vulnerabilities they have is like activation locking, where it's just like there's just too many targets for you to try and kill, right? And you just like you mangle everything you shoot at, but it's still like survived and can still like hold a point. And so
I mean, like a Dreadknight will shred a Chimera. They're only T9.
Right.
But it's the other stuff like a Lehman Russ is T11. You have to get into combat to really deal with that. You can shoot it, and then but then you're relying on your strength 14 hammer to kind of like see you through with no rerolls.
Yeah, but then they also have 18 Bulgrin chilling on
which are just
objectives with they've got -1 damage and like they just
don't they have a feel no pain too?
Yeah, big wall of meat.
Yeah, they're real hard to kill. Yeah, the Emperor's largest bodies and smallest brains.
Yeah, hero faith.
Exactly. Yeah, they really ought to be a sisters unit then, right?
Make them agents.
They're all faith.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love if they were agents. I'd buy a squad.
Bulgrin breachers, running through little halls with shotguns.
There you go.
That's for
But it's Bulgrin's size shotgun, so it's firing like cannonballs.
I'll take my royalty check now, please.
Yeah, precisely. Oh man, that's rough.
Yeah, so I think like it's interesting to look at like the WTC, and you'll always see like some lessons coming from it that like I think there is, you don't have to take just NDKs. You can take a more well-balanced list and still have success.
Yeah.
And like,
Like
it
Johan.
does, yeah, and it does seem like, uh, you can do, like, you can do the 6 NDK list and spam it out there, but like, you still have some options to like rub a few brain cells together and
I mean,
play a more.
I got to be honest, like this list, which I now have to switch back to, like Alejandro's list is wait, actually, sorry, it's Garrett's list. Yeah, sorry, Garrett's list.
I will say Alejandro's list, my favorite part about it is the name of the list.
What was the name of the list?
It's I had it pulled up and now I
Oh,
closed it.
this used to be crowed. Yeah,
Crowded.
crowded. Yeah.
Oh, big fan of puns.
So, like Garrett's list here, okay? Like,
Yeah.
I for before the latest points increased to redeemers, we saw a huge amount of lists in teams and singles that were 6 NDK and like 1 or 2 redeemers and a strike squad or something like that.
Yep.
And I was just like, that is the most uninteresting, most boring list I can possibly think of out of this entire index to possibly make. To Garrett's credit, not a huge fan of the 6 NDKs. I think I've made that pretty clear. But he has 4 strike squads in here. He has 2
Yeah.
interceptor squads. Like he has guys running around doing all kinds of crazy shit and scoring them all kinds of points. He's thinking, he's doing, he's moving, he's shooting, he's scooting, he's looting, he's doing all that, and then he has the 6 big threats, which are like, come and get me. If you don't stop me, I can hurt you. I mean, the Grandmasters are just incredible into any vehicle or monster lists, right?
Yeah.
Like they will absolutely assassinate anything with those keywords. So,
Yeah.
I think that's
awesome.
I think that's cooler than I'm gonna sit here with 6 NDKs, 2 redeemers, and then I'm gonna hope that I have 1 strike squad that can like jump around and score me some points. So,
Yeah.
And Levi just said, anytime an army takes a 6 of the quote same unit, something is wrong with that faction. And I agree. The Grey Knights have like 11 data sheets. It's really hard for us to... Actually, I will speak to that briefly. I'm amazed, at least in singles, to see the variability of our lists when we have so few options. Like, you have people doing pretty well with, like, purifiers, which I've never put on the table since I've played this game. I've been playing since the bottom ass end of 8th with my Grey Knights. I've never put a single purifier on the table. I've modeled them, I've painted them. I think they look beautiful. Never put them on the table, right? But like, folks are doing well with them. At the beginning, well, not the beginning, but before the last balance update, Chase in Utah, I want to say, I might be getting that wrong, was doing incredible with a Storm Raven purifier build. He was winning GTs with it, and he was just going like, my aggression accelerator pedal is always floored. That's it. I'm just gonna come at you, hope I roll hot, kill all your shit, and score more than you, right? And he did well with that. That's not my play style, but like, he did well. So we have a lot of variability for only having 11 units. In the teams aspect, though, I feel like the default is, oh, we have a Grey Knights player, they better have 6 Dreadknights.
Yeah.
And that feels, to me, like an uninteresting list to play, personally.
Yeah. And that's kind of why like Garrett's list stuck out to me a little more, was because like there's no terminators in it.
No.
And it's like, it's just lots of infantry going all over the place.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool way to play that archetype.
Yeah, I mean, like, the interceptors can, like, one piece of tech is they can be grabbed for a teleport assault, or they can be in deep strike, and then they can come down within 3, and in their shooting phase they can shoot and then move 6 inches. So like, they can, if you leave if you leave a squad of intercessors on your home objective, and I don't think, because capture enemy outpost is gone now, right?
Anymore. Yeah.
But like, you know, like, or what's the mission where like if you don't hold your home, you don't score any fucking points?
Or like defend stronghold, right?
Yeah.
Like you can give your opponent like a dead card on that, and then they have to hold it through their next turn.
Right. Like, and that's huge. You know, and you throw away a 130 point unit, you kill, you know, you just have to kill a couple of those intercessors, and you have more OC, you know. So
yep.
Oh no, or Grots. Like Grots hate Stormbolters, it turns out.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Definitely not the pro Stormbolter.
Yeah.
Crowd.
Yeah. So like, yeah, there's some awesome. Cool tech here. If I had to run a 6 DK list, this would be it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to, but I could run this list.
I think one tweak I would make, because it doesn't have Sigil of Exogen, which was one of the other really surprising things, right? Like our best enhancement. I would like you drop one of the strike squads, add in the brother captain, or not brother captain,
like Stern.
Yeah, you add in Stern, and then you put Sigil on something.
Yeah, because like Sigil on a Grandmaster is kind of a fuck you, right?
Yeah.
It's effectively a free like rapid ingress in your opponent's shooting phase. Well, free. It's 30 points, but like it's free. It's a good 30 points.
Yeah.
But or they do like the opposite, which is where they're like, oh, if I shoot him, he jumps, right? And then they just never shoot him, and I'm like, perfect.
We're still doing psychic damage, baby.
This is what this is what I wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
Was one unit immune to shooting.
Exactly. And it's like you can do some really cool things where like you drop it in, you blow up a backline unit, and then they like have to turn around and try and take it on. But like it, yeah, I love Sigil.
Levi's throwing from some shade, man. It probably doesn't have Sigil for clock timing because your opponent has to ask who has it every 10 seconds because all Dreadknights look the same. First of all, my Grandmasters, I model them with a magnetized giant iron halo on the top. And then one of them is in blue instead of red cloth, and it has my face on it, like wearing cool glasses. That's usually the one with Sigil.
That's the one. The sunglasses are the Sigil.
That's me. So I don't want to get shot.
Sunglasses of exogens.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, good times. All right, what haven't we spoken about yet then?
Let's see. So talking about singles, so the other kind of like for NDK archetype, you had David Ozawa, same tournament.
Right.
The interesting thing about these two lists that we're talking about is like they were both at the same tournament, and they both like made it in top 10, and like the only losses they had were against Art of War players, right? So it's like
I also want to just kind of like point out, so David Ozawa has been on my show before because he blew out a GT with Grey Knights in 9th. David and I had a child, not together, but we both had kids at relatively the same times. And he actually made a post on the Grey Knight channel the day before this tournament and said effectively, LOL getting back into Grey Knights, going to a GT, I'll see how well I do, LOL. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I 4-1'd it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the guy is a good player.
That's some strong dad hammer energy.
Like he's like, just here are my models. Haven't played in like 10 months. Gonna go fucking 4-1 a GT.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's So this is like, this list has some backstory to it. But this list is fantastic. Other than the Grandmaster Dreadknight, this is my list. Like, this is the kind of list I love to play. So it has Libby's, like, it has the Grandmaster Dreadknight, it has Drago in it, it has 2 5-man Terminator squads for 2 of the Libby's, I assume, which is great, because 10th, like, lets you split that up, right? Like, if you know you need your Librarians for Action Monkeys, you've got your Librarians to run Action Monkeys. You got 1 Strike Squad and 3 Dreadknights. Like, this is, like, my kind of list right here, except for the Dreadknight. I would personally get rid of the Dreadknight. I would put those points into making one of the Terminator squads a big squad, throw Drago in with them, and then I would find some place for those, like other points. But this is effectively, like, my style list. This is ultra, like, anytime you see 3 Librarians, you know it's about aggression, right? Like, you know that these guys are going to be vortexing every single turn.
It's time to, that list is all about, like, choosing violence. Like, it's going to be a lot of mortal wounds.
Which a lot of armies can't handle. Like, I mean, if you tell a guard player you just hit their Chimera with, 11 mortal wounds, they're just like, excuse me? You're like, yeah, I just got a little lucky on this die roll. So if you want to just kill some of your models and pile them out into the middle of nowhere now, that'd be great. And then, like, Stormbolters.
Yeah,
kill all the infantry.
You get like the double, like, you get 2 double 6s in a row on a Rogel Thorn, and it just, like, evaporate. Thanos snaps out of existence, and then you watch the guard player just.
Yeah. And they try to say, well, I could do 1 instance of reducing this to 0 damage, right? And you're like, yeah, man, if you want to reduce 1 mortal wound to 0 damage, you can take the other 11.
Yeah.
I've never actually done that, but I can see that happening.
Yeah. And one of the really cool things about, like, this character heavy style list, and something that, like, I've been thinking about a lot with just list design with Grey Knights recently, is, like, you kind of, like, build the spine of, like, what your list is going to be with, like, 10 Terminators, and then you can kind of swap the tech that goes along with it, right? So I was toying with the list that had like Drago, a Librarian, and then a Grandmaster, and then, like, depending on the matchup, I can swap out what gets stapled on to those Terminators.
Yeah.
Right, and, like, even though it's like a really good example of, like, why I think the Grey Knights index is so interesting, is because there's so much flexibility in what you can be doing with those, with the like, small little tech choices completely change how the entire, like, list plays.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Like, 10th edition, by allowing you to swap your leaders in and out of squads per game, like, in 10th, I love any of those decisions you get to make at the table. Like, the NIDS index, I think it's the Vanguard Force or Invasion Fleet. Like, you just get to pick, like, does my army have lethal hits or does it have sustained hits? Cool. But you get to pick that at each matchup. So you're like, oh, I'm going into a whole bunch of armor. I brought 140 gaunts. Like, I'm gonna do lethal hits. Oh, I'm going into, 100 fucking Crusaders, because that's now a build apparently. I'm gonna do sustained hits, right? Like, like, that's actually, I think sustained hits is probably a bad choice into that match. But you know what I mean? Like, you get to pick, and I think that's really cool. So the fact that we can choose leaders to go in, like, I had Daniel Mindlin on my show a few months ago, and he was talking about how he put a Grandmaster in with 10 Paladins, and he went into Death Guard, and he's like, perfect. Those Paladins killed like half his fucking army. Like, they just had a field day. They charged and killed, and they reveled and laughed and ha 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 ha, and they just did that every single turn and just killed Death Guard, like, the whole game, because their army rule does nothing against you.
Yeah, that's, I mean, honestly, like, Death Guard and Satan are why I still have a Grandmaster in like all my lists, because it's just like he's just too good.
We were bringing Grandmasters in lists to fight Catan almost specifically when like Hypercrypt and Canopta Court was everywhere. And yep. Because they made the unnamed Catan so fucking cheap that like everybody had at least 2 of them, if not 3. Yeah. And Levi's agreeing with us, like swapping out like where your leaders are is a cool. I can see how that sucks for new players because it's another thing to kind of like, this game's already so complicated. But for us who've played so many times, it's like, okay, I can, I can stick Drago on this side and go after Magnus, and I can put the librarians. Like, I'm not gonna run them like alone this time. I like brought the tech for them to be in like the Terminator squad, so I can have this big foot play for Feel No Pain, which is insane. Yeah. I think it's neat. Yeah.
It gets me so excited for the new codex whenever that comes out. Now that they've confirmed that it's gonna happen.
But it's effectively a coin flip, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a 50-50 shot whether it's worth a shit or it's terrible.
Yeah.
Or everybody's gonna be like, please let us have Index Grey Knights back.
Call me the optimist, okay? I'm sure I will eat these words in a year whenever you do your like codex review.
My review.
Like, hey, Tommy, if you're watching.
Hey Tommy, come back.
Remember this clip?
It's just that review will be you in a dark room with a single light bulb and a fucking like sheet over your head. and you'll just be crying the whole time.
Yeah.
The silent sob. Yeah. I don't know.
Myths of Deimos.
But to give Games Workshop some credit, those codexes that have come out that have like everybody loved the Orc Codex, everybody hated the Custos one, right? Yep. But they did a couple of tweaks, not the Orc one. I think they went overboard there, but like they did a couple of tweaks to like the Custodes one, and now they're pretty good again. But they're not like when 10th hit and they were they were oppressive.
Yeah.
Guard when 10th hit was
maybe.
Just insane. Yeah. I would love that too. Lex says, I hope you guys get the guy who wrote the Tau Codex because there are a solid 3 usable playstyles. Yeah. I don't want whoever wrote the Imperial Agents decks.
I think whoever's on the Games Workshop like financial relations and like shareholders team wrote that codex, because
yeah. Like my Death Watch, my poor Death Watch. Like I get lore wise why you don't want them to be a whole faction, okay? I don't want to go on a huge tangent. But like if you're gonna give them a detachment so they can run by themselves, don't take the detachment that was already at a 30% win rate and then neuter it.
Hey dude, they won a GT. I don't know if you can. They're
not bad. True. That's true. We did. We pulled out 1 GT win by abusing Inceptors and the special issue ammo strats. You're absolutely right. we had 2 tricks and we used them both.
Was there the whole time, and people just couldn't see it.
There you
go.
So actually, that's an interesting pivot. So right now, again, the Imperial Agents book was like written a year and a half ago, but right now a 5-man Death Watch kill team is 105 points. That's 15 points less than a strike squad. So if you need somebody to sit in your backfield, be battle line, hold your home objective, have multiple special weapons actually, like at the moment with the information we have, and I could eat crow in 45 minutes for all I know, you know, that seems like, because for me, when I'm building my lists, I feel like I always need an extra 10 points or even 5 points. So if I can downgrade a strike squad to a Deathwatch kill team of 5 dudes, knowing that they're never going to leave the home objective, basically spread out to be as like big of a like deep strike deterrent as possible, now I have those extra 15 points to put like some tech on something or upgrade a unit to another thing that it wasn't before, you know? Yeah.
That seems pretty good. Like it could be like, that seems like it could be cool. I think there's like, I think there's a lot of, I haven't even begun to wrap my head around like what all the keywords do and all that stuff, and like,
well, right now
like,
you can put a Warlord Titan in a Rhino, so that's cool.
Rhino, yeah, that's awesome.
And you can do Rhinoception, where you can have like 12 rhinos inside of rhinos, and they all pop out and they spread across the whole board instantly. Effectively, instantly, not actually instantly, but like this one will disembark from this one, and then that one disembarks from that one disembarks from that one, and you can like string it out across the whole board, like turn 1. What? They said any Aegis of the Imperium unit can fit in a Rhino.
I know, but it's like.
So if you ally in, dude. Yeah, if you just take 12 rhinos, or 6, I guess, but you know, and you can basically go across the whole board instantly.
Secret mission is Unbreakable Wall. Meet teleporting rhino.
Yeah. They really need, like, I know Games Workshop has lawyers. Do any of them play the game, and can you just like pay them 40% more to look at these rules before you? Because like this is what lawyers live for. They want to find those little loopholes so they can go to a judge and say like, actually, like, Your Honor, and then the judge has to be like, you little shit, like, you got me.
That's what it says. So
yeah,
I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
But
Lexi says they should come with special issue ammo profiles. From what I remember, they actually used to, and that's back when they could ally in only, and they got rid of that when they were their own army, which makes sense.
It used to be like war gear, right?
Yeah, because I think so. Because either I didn't play when that existed, but I think I remember other Deathwatch players saying, or like other players saying, like back in 6th and 7th, you could ally in a Deathwatch squad, and they came with a whole bunch of crazy shit that they could do by themselves, but like you got one of them. And the more crazy shit any unit can do in this game, obviously the more expensive they're going to get, unless you're the Calidus Assassin, in which case they just keep doing crazier shit throughout the edition, and your points don't actually change that much. The fact that they have fight first, you can charge them, they can fight you. You can technically either kill the opponent or live through it, fall back, and then go back into deep strike in the same turn. And it's not even your turn. You can do that on the opponent's turn. The Calidus is amazing.
Moonwalk back into deep strike.
Yeah, exactly.
That I would be surprised if it makes it to release with that, and they don't like have an FAQ on it or something like that, because like, or it just costs like 180 points or something crazy like that.
So someone said on the Grey Knight like Discord when this was all leaking, like, holy shit, they buffed the Calidus, and I was like, there's no way that's true. And like, I think I finished feeding my daughter, like drove her to daycare, came back, and then I was reading through everything. I'm like, holy shit, they did buff the Calidus. Like, why?
It's real good.
Like the one unit in the game that didn't need extra TLC got like a fucking vacation in Maui.
Yeah. Now it's like a 7-layer dip of keywords of like fights first.
Yeah, man.
Infiltrator.
I've watched that motherfucker, because their flamer has precision. I've watched her kill leaders in Overwatch.
Yeah, dude.
You're like, damn, that's good. And that was yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm gonna change the name of this episode to "We Love the the Canis Assassin."
yeah. Calidus enthusiasts.
Yes, exactly. It's just so Levi says the warp talents had that sort of rule interaction with a strat, and they changed it so you have to kill the entire unit for it to like actually activate.
If I had to guess, that's probably what they'll change it to once they get around to like, right sizing it, because like
Yeah.
that's yeah.
I mean, the
And it
Canis.
also has that aura of your strats are more expensive.
That's exactly my
like,
point.
It just does everything.
Exactly. Like the Canis is nuts. You like in Grey Knights, okay?
Mm.
She deep strikes too, and she goes up B downy, so you effectively have 4 up B downies, not 3 if you want them. As long as you pick her on on the 4th, right? So like you bring down Terminators, right? Like even if you're marching them up the board, she's obviously faster than Terminators. You keep her with them in the back, enough that if you get charged, they're within her 12-inch bubble. She has lone op of 12 inches, right? If they get something around them and charge that, she gets fight first. Like you have to deep strike within 9 and shoot her basically to like consistently kill her. Because her armor save is a 6 up, but
Incinerators,
she has a 4 up invul or something.
Yeah, like incinerators do rough things to the Calidus though.
Yeah.
Like warp spiders, big fans of the Calidus assassin because it's just like 24 inches.
Yeah.
I'm next to you.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Whoosh.
Always ask what the warp spider's threat range is.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, I mean, it's just, and then if they're like, no, fuck it, I'll just charge you anyway. Okay, Blood Angels, your fight on Death Strat is now 3 CP.
yeah.
Hope you have that banked. Oh, you don't? Like, I don't know. Just like the Calidus is wild, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like power in that skin tight suit. All right, what were we talking about? I'm sorry.
I don't even know. I think we talked about some singles lists.
Yeah, so that was David Ozawa's list, which is fantastic. I'm gonna switch back to my list view. Again, if you're a fan of ultraviolence, this is great. I would make minor adjustments, and this is like the list I love to run. Yeah, just fantastic. What else? We wanted to, so you have Miles' list on here as well, which I have ready to go right here. So speaking of Stern, he brought Stern.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's like kind of a good middle ground between the two of like, 5 Dreadknights instead of 6, right?
Yeah.
But this one's interesting because it's like it's got a lot of the good stuff that you'd expect from like a Grey Knights list. It's got Dreadknights, Drago. Stern is an interesting choice. I think it's awesome. It's like an awesome tech piece because it can just.
Stern's so fucking annoying.
Yep. It's a teleporting thing that if you try to get close to it, you can miss it away if they're not careful. It'll get back up.
Yeah.
When you kill it, like
on a 2-up, he gets back up. Like that's the thing, right? And he's a Terminator.
Yeah.
So like, if you need behind enemy lines, you drop him down in the far corner. He's only a 40mm base. It's really hard to screen that out. Even with like infiltrators. You drop him down, and then if they shoot him, like they need to commit real shooting into him because he's a Terminator with like 7 wounds or 6 wounds.
Yep.
So he's a 2-up, 4-up, T5, 7 wounds. You could always Armor of Contempt him if you need to. So he's kind of hard to shift. And then even if they do kill him, you roll 1d6 on a 2-up. He just stands up right where he just was.
Yeah.
And he still scores you behind enemy lines, right? Like, he's kind of fucking annoying.
He's
Like that,
awesome.
like the Hellbrute, the Obliterators, whatever, have to actually turn and focus on him because he has a 4-up invul. So half your damage isn't getting through in the first place, you know. So
Yeah.
like you have to focus him down. You you can't just throw some Stormbolters his way, like you know.
Yep.
I like Stern a lot, especially at 90 points. He's a lot of fun.
Yep.
I have had though against Zach, my orc opponent. Zach has figured out the key, and it's to charge Stern with Grots. And then Stern spends the rest of the game killing Grots in the corner all by himself. And the Grots can't hurt him, but he also can't miss away. He can't like teleport Assault back up because he's in engagement rate, and he kills 3 to 5 Grots every single turn. But that's just there are so many Grots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just like he's there for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
That's his life now.
It's like, why did I bring these 90 points? Because
The
40
Grot
points just tied up my 90 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it's also got like strikes, interceptors, a lot of good scoring potential there. And not just dump Dreadknights and Redeemers type of archetype at someone, and hope they can pass the stat check. So
yeah, I'm really glad to see more of the like strike slots out there, like more power armor in general. It's nice to actually see that like being run. The interceptors were like a tech piece. I feel like people were sleeping on. Like a couple of people were like, "No, you these are really good. You should try out." And everybody's like, "Nah, I don't think so." And then suddenly everybody, oh well, actually I know what it is. That's because purgation squads and interceptors are the same price, and they finally drove the final nail into the purgation squad coffin. So
yeah,
I like. Your list, your RTT list is great, and I bet you just look at it and go like, well, my purgation squads are now interceptors because it's the same points.
Yep.
So
same exact thing, right?
Yeah, no difference.
Yep, that's the exactly what my brain did until I realized that all the Dreadknights went up points. I'm like, fuck.
Oh, they did again? Oh.
Well, in the data slate, right after the RTT.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
well, I forgot that was a pre-data slate game. Yeah.
But
no, this is a lot of cool tech. There's some people in the Green Knight Discord that they run Kaldor with a 5-man team of Terminators all the time, and they say like you have to treat him more of a scalpel and less as like a hammer. And I guess my brain can't grok that. Because I'm like, but how do?
Yeah.
Like, me want kill, right? Like, I can't.
He's getting mad. He's getting hooked up with Terminators. They're there to terminate things, not scalp.
Right. Yeah. Look, it's right there in their name. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
But clearly, that's what he's like doing here. Like, Drago goes with the Terminators. There's no fucking way he's sticking Stern with the Terminators, right? Yeah. Like Kaldor loves the lethal hits from the from the Terminators, so yeah. This is a cool list. I don't think we have any others to go over. I think we've gone over them now.
Yeah, no, I think we covered it.
Yeah. So have you played, so while I leave chat to drop us some questions if they want, have you played any teams events? I've been invited to 2 now and have never been able to actually make either of them.
Unfortunately, no, I've not gotten the opportunity. I was going to be going, like, I got the invite to go to Champs Cup, but unfortunately, like, flying down to Texas right now is not. With the kid, it's I gotta stay local for my events for a little bit.
Well, the Pacific Northwest has never been busier, so
I know.
Bonus.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good tournaments coming up. Shout out to Cascade Clash.
There you go.
coming up.
Yeah.
Tickets are on sale. Hit up Best Coast Pairings. Look for Cascade Clash.
Zach and I are talking right now. This is not a promise. Do not treat it as
Oh,
such. But we're talking about the next NoobHammer Invitational.
oh
So that'll be
boy.
fun. We
Are we
made
doing
so much money for a charity last time. So
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun too. A lot of good people, good cause,
yeah,
and
great cause.
yeah,
I think I made more money from you guys buying more command points than I did
yeah,
the
dude.
actual people
Do you know how
tuning
good
in.
pre-buff Grey Knights when you can just buy command points and use them
Right?
whenever you want?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I effectively have unlimited command points. Yeah, very good. We have very good stratagems. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
tracks. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, but teams, yeah, teams like is a thing. The extra meta level of like the pre-game selection. And then
yeah.
there are meta levels on meta levels. So like I don't know if WTC did this, but I know the ATC for Australia, they do this. Like you pick, so you're on your team and then you pick not only like your matchup and then it goes back and forth, but then like you pick either heavy, normal or light terrain.
Yeah.
So
It's
like
like
you can bring an Iron Storm shooty list and purposefully pick the light terrain and then be like, I'll take anybody that you put on this terrain, or you can be like, no, I'm Blood Angels, I want heavy terrain, like I want to sneak up on you and then destroy half your army like in one activation. That's the stuff that is like wild to me, where like you can actually win the game just in pairings.
yeah,
And or you can win the round in the pairings, and like after that the games are almost like foregone conclusions, almost, if you know your
yeah. It's
yeah.
it's like one of those things that like is a whole is like a whole dimension to like light terrain, heavy terrain, and stuff like that for teams that I think it's like defender gets to pick the board or
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
right. It's crazier than
So
that. Yeah,
yeah, so it's
it's like a
like
toss up each time too.
yeah, so it's like you can be the defender, pick the board, but then like they get to pick the person that matches up against you on that board. So it's wild.
Yeah. If
So
you ever have time, War Games Live, they they've been streaming a lot of team games lately. And they stream all of it. Like they stream the matchup, and you can't hear what all the teams are really saying, but like you can watch them on the board. They like put down their cards that match, army like into army and stuff like that. And it's pretty fascinating. Even if you have no interest in ever attending a team's game ever, it's just really fascinating. So if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend it.
yep,
It's
yeah,
pretty crazy.
it's definitely on my bucket list. I want to go to one once life kind of settles down a bit. But
You have a kid now, man. That
yeah, and
like
like
that'll
16
happen in
years.
13 years when they can
Yeah,
legally watch after themselves.
yep,
Which is, I was at Latchkey Kids, so like when I heard that in the state of Oregon you can leave a child alone for like X amount of hours when they're 13, I'm like, 13? Like I was running around in the woods alone with like a tuna sandwich when I was 7. Like what is this? For like hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
different times.
For sure. So how would which one of these lists sang to you, and how would you change them? Or are you really set, like you love that RTT list, you won that RTT with it,
Yeah,
you've made
I
your
would
like
say
adjustments, right?
no, like the list that I'm considering, you know, for singles is probably similar to David's list, right? I
Right.
like
Okay. So
I
we're on the
I like
same.
yeah, I like I mean I'm gonna give the 6 NDK list a try and just see how it feels. Like not the now that it's not just like redeemers and NDKs, like if it's a bit more interesting to play. But I think it's like it I've done the 3 NDK lists and like I always feel like the consistency isn't there in terms of damage.
Mhm.
Like the extra like Terminator squad I get just doesn't pull through for me in the way I'm always like I wish I would have just had another Dreadknight.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, the only change I would say would be I would think is like maybe doing um no, I even wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't like maybe changing Drago to a Grandmaster, but
Ooh,
like
that's
even then,
saucy.
yeah. But it's just like it's just got a lot of like you can play librarians however you want, swap them around. It just kind of does a good job of showing the flexibility of like what you can do with Grey Knights in list building and kind of have a strong take all comers list. I think I would change the Psy Cannons to incinerators on
Yeah,
the
I thought that.
Terminators.
I also
Um,
saw he had like a silencer on his Grandmaster, and I feel like that's probably because he hasn't played 10th.
yeah, and
So
same
he's
thing
like,
with
oh, this
the
is what they're. Yeah,
yeah.
all of his Dreadknights had silencers, and I'm pretty sure that's just he's like, this is what they're modeled with. So
Yeah. Well, like I like the damage from a silencer is weirdly like it can be very similar in situations to like an incinerator, but you don't have to roll dice. The benefit is like Overwatch, right? That's where you
oh,
want it.
absolutely. Like, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like a 10-man paladin squad with a Grandmaster has 6 incinerators, right?
Oh yeah.
When
Yep.
you tell a Drukhari player, oh yeah, like you could totally charge, but it's 66 auto hitting, strength 6, -1 AP, 1 damage flamers, they're like, anyway, so I'm going the other direction. You're like, yeah, that's probably a really fucking smart plan, isn't it? All right, like, you're like, unless you're that one unit that has the incubi with the one enhancement that makes them immune to being targeted by the overwrought strat, you're not charging that, right?
Yeah.
Like I was playing against my guard friend once, and I had my 10-man of paladins land in his backfield and flame his 20-man infantry squad, and they easily picked up the entire 20-man squad. Like it wasn't even.
Yeah.
It's like you got a bunch of 6-up saves.
Yeah.
The like Stormbolter, I think maybe there was 1 or 2 guys left or something, but it was like it was a massacre. Which really into that that day and age of guard, like you really want to just leave them on 1 or 2 models anyway. So
Yeah. Right.
they
When they
just
were
bring them
just
back. Yeah.
constantly bringing them all back.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, if I had to like go to a GT tomorrow and I had to pick like one of these lists, I think it'd probably be David's list because it's just like it's got a heck of a lot of damage, a lot of shooting. You can still play the missions. It seems like an interesting list to play. Um,
Yeah.
the other kind of list I'm playing around with is like I I love the Grandmaster Side Cannon with Paladins. Like it's just a nice little shooting threat that can hold center point objectives and
I
like if you try.
fucking wish the infantry side cannon just had like ignore cover.
Yeah.
If it just had that one change, they'd be so good on
Yeah.
paladins.
Yeah.
Because you're hitting on 2s, their strength 8, -1 AP guaranteed.
Yeah.
Not -1 AP, and they're not in cover in an addition where if you're not in cover, you're probably an idiot.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Man,
Blast would be interesting.
that would be insane.
Blast would be interesting, except the fact that the heavy one doesn't have blast. So,
But think about 6 side cannons with blast, right? You shoot into a 10-man unit, and that's
they're all minus
extra
1
shots.
AP. They're gonna make every save anyway, unless they're guardsmen, which they were gonna die anyway. Yeah,
True.
like I don't know.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. I vote for it. Yeah, send it, ship it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something like, you know, in this day and age of stats being available all the time, of like, you know, you could be a Games Workshop designer and you're like, oh, I have to do like Codex Grey Knights. Okay, well, let's jump into the Grey Knights Discord and just kind of hang out there for a few weeks and see what they like and don't like, right? And then I can like, I can think about ways to kind of plug the gaps, right? And it's like, oh, they only take incinerators on stuff. It's well balanced, it's fine. Send it out as it is, right? Like, oh, their box only comes with 3 special heavy weapons. Oh, and 2 of them are useless every edition? Cool. That's fun. Like, it still amazes me purifiers don't have some kind of benefit to bringing incinerators. Like, you don't even have to make the base gun good if you make the bonus for the unit bringing it good. Like, it's like incinerators with purifiers get an extra pip of AP or something. Or, you know, against fucking monsters, they get 2 damage instead of 1 damage. You know, like, it's all kinds of cool stuff they could do.
The incinerators become D3+3 instead of D6 or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like something. Like that would be more interesting. Like I'm not saying every weapon has to be good all the time in every character's hands, but like if they want to make special, you know, or like purgation squads, there are heavy weapon, right? And they've nerfed indirect so hard, like what's the point of bringing a heavy weapon squad now? You know, it'd be cool if they did stuff like, all right, all these 3 weapons equipped by like a purgation squad have the assault keyword.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them any better in combat. They're still garbage in combat, but like now they can, you know, we're auto moving 6. We can get our like firepower where it needs to be. And suddenly that's at least something else to think about. Like, what special weapon do I want to bring? Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can like get them to a sneaky angle where they're like, I mean, I guess you could just do that with teleport assault, but like
minus 3 AP side cannons from plunging fire would be neat.
That'd be pretty dope.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like they didn't do that, so everything I'm saying means nothing. But
yeah, I just want a punchy, fast, like melee Grey Knight's army back. I miss my rapiers.
Incognito Saber says, new to 40k and Grey Knights. Can I not run Brotherhood Apothecary and Brotherhood Ancient together? So your question has that awkward, you're new to 40k, let me explain to you the nuances of this. The Brotherhood Ancient and Brotherhood Apothecary no longer exist. What you have is a Brotherhood Terminator with Narthesium is the Apothecary, and you have the Brotherhood Terminator with Ancient's Banner, who's the Ancient. So it's an important distinction because in Knight, those were 2 separate leader units. Now they are rolled into this squad. You can bring both in one squad. In one 5-man, you can have 1 Apothecary and 1 Ancient, and in 1 10-man, you can have 1 Ancient and 1 Apothecary.
Yep.
So the terms are interchangeable. I know that sounds kind of like I'm like, yeah, it sounds like I'm being a lawyer here, but I think it's an important distinction to make. They're all Terminators, and the reason it's important is because one of the first questions a smart opponent will ask who hasn't played Grey Knights before is, can I precision out your Apothecary? And you say, no, in fact, you cannot, because it's just a Terminator with special war gear. Because it's not its own model. Because they will. I've had multiple opponents ask me that when they hear like, oh, this guy lets me bring back Terminators. They're like, oh, fuck that. How do I stop them from doing that?
Yep. And one thing that you can also do is the ancient, you can put, or the Terminator with the ancient banner, you can put an incinerator on it.
Well, any special weapon, but you're going to want the incinerator, yeah. So someone's probably going to ask why. So let me get up my reasoning here. I actually do have the Grey Knight index up for some reason because I'm a giant nerd. Let me switch over to that view real quick. So I'm going to bring up the Terminator squad. If I can spell squad right. I actually did spell it with a W there accidentally, so that's very smart.
Loud.
All right, sorry. Do. So here it is. So on the back, the way war gear options work is you can only complete each bullet point once, but you can complete them in any order. That's important. So the reason I know this is legal is you can do it in the Games Workshop app. I've asked multiple tournament organizers in my area, and they've approved this. So what you do is the first thing that you do is point number 2, which is you replace Brotherhood Terminator's Stormbolter with an ancient banner. And then it says equipped with right. I'm sorry. Bad phrasing. It says one Brotherhood Terminator equipped with a Stormbolter can be equipped with a Ancient's banner. It does not say it replaces the Stormbolter. Then at the first point, you say for every 5 models in this unit, one Brotherhood Terminator Stormbolter can be replaced with one of the following. Either, and then one of our 3 special weapons. So the Brotherhood Terminator with the Stormbolter becomes a Brotherhood Terminator with Ancient's Banner and Stormbolter, and then you replace the Stormbolter with a special weapon. For any 5-man units, you should definitely do that. Your Ancient guy should definitely be your 1 heavy weapon user, and then your Narthesium guy obviously loses his Stormbolter entirely, which it states here in the 3rd bullet point. So that's how that works, is you do point 2 and then a point 1. The Paladin datasheet is much more clear on this and uses better terminology. But in the core rulebook, it explains how to actually equip war gear, and you can do it in any order. In case anyone asks you, because I've been asked multiple times how I can put a incinerator on my banner guy, and I explain it that way. So welcome to 40K, where nothing makes any fucking sense and it's all convoluted.
Makes it fun.
I mean, the strength of this game is its weakness, right?
Yeah.
The strength of the game is how complicated it is. The weakness of this game is how complicated it is. Yep. Just like, that's 40K, right?
Yeah.
But very important to understand that, especially like if you're going to run lots of 5-mans, you don't want them, you don't want to have to be choosing between like, do I kill my Ancients guy or my heavy weapons guy? Like, they're the same guy. So the last 2 to die are the Ancient and the Apothecary every time in a Terminator squad. They should always move together with your leader for that squad. They should always be in a tri-point or at least next to one another. So as the models die, they're not like out of coherency and stuff, right? It should always be next to one another. Anything else you want to bring up? No, if the apothecary cannot be the banner guy. It does say that it says that one Terminator equipped with a Stormbolter may also equip a banner, and the Narthesium says that you replace the Stormbolter with the Narthesium. It would be really funny though if you could have an apothecary banner bearer heavy weapons guy. I feel like that's a lot of specialties on one guy, but a Space Marine could probably handle it.
Yeah, just keep strapping stuff on.
Yeah.
You know.
And that way you know you have to kill the whole unit to actually kill the whole unit. Wild. Yeah. No, thankfully they plugged that hole. Because we'd all do it. If they allowed us, we'd all do it. Manland Chronicles is just throwing out lots of praise. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, like, now's the time to ask. Things are kind of ramping down. Tommy and I will talk about this game until our fucking lips fall off. So if you want to ask us questions, now's the time. Oh wait, hold on. Yes, so to answer your question again, yes, they can be in the same unit. No, they cannot be the same model in the unit. So your Terminator with the Narthesium and your Terminator with the Ancient Banner have to be two different models, but both of them can be in the same 5-man or 10-man unit. In fact, honestly, that's one of the reasons we have the best Terminators in the game.
Yeah.
Is because of
they just dominate. They can dominate primary and respawn. It's like,
it's actually one of the reasons. Like, at first in this edition, I really loved Paladins. I loved them a lot, but as the edition has gone on, like, you only win the game by scoring points, right? And you can score, like, if you keep bringing back a 42-point model every single turn, that's a lot of extra points that you've brought back and a lot of extra OC on objectives. And every time you bring back a guy, like, you can bring him back closer to the enemy. So on your movement phase, after you, like, your command phase, your 5-inch movement, you effectively get 6.5 inches of movement, because you, like, place that new model out half an inch away from your unit. It's a 1-inch base ish, and then you have a 5-inch move. So now your whole unit is going to move 7.5 inches and not 5. So that extra movement can really help you win games too.
Yeah, it's particularly good on the unit with sigil. Like, one thing I will do is I will intentionally take, like, on a sigil unit, if they've lined up a couple things, like, take one Terminator worth of casualties, and then on the second activation pick it up and put it somewhere else, because you basically get a free rapid ingress that is, like, right next to it's a guaranteed charge pretty much after that, so.
Like, I've had games where, like, an opponent will put a whole bunch of firepower, like, into my Terminators, kill one Terminator or two, and then I'll be like, that's actually really bad for you. And they're like, why? And I said, because I'm bringing one back. And they're like, oh no. Like, I didn't know you could do that. It's like, well, I told you at the start of the game, but, like, the game's complicated. So I don't play Gotcha Hammer on purpose, but it can definitely happen. So if you're using the Games Workshop app, I don't recommend it. I don't like it. I'm an app, like, engineer, and it drives me crazy. But you have to be very specific about how many models you have up top. I believe it'll say like how many Terminators you have. Down below it has special war gear, and if you click one of the special war gear options, your normal Terminators are now special Terminators, and so you have to make sure that your total at the top basically starts at 3, or 2 plus the Justicar, and then you go down and you select the Terminator with Narthecium and the Terminator with Ancient Banner. If I remember right, I haven't used the Games Workshop app in months because the UI drives me bonkers. It's such a waste of space.
One thing that can mess you up with the like the GW app is like if you don't have the total number of like models right, like if you don't remove Terminators while you're adding the Narthecium and heavy weapon Terminators, it'll throw errors.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to end up with 2 regular Terminators, the Justicar, and then and then, oh wait, no. You want to have 1 regular Terminator.
No, it does work. It's fiddly, but it does work. It's absolutely legal by the app. But yeah, it's not. I'm big into New Recruit right now. NewRecruit.eu. It's all online. It's all in your browser, which means you can like use it on your phone. You can use it on your desktop, whatever. And it has all the rules in there, and it's all free. Hey, look, see, Lex just agreed with me. He also uses New Recruit. So NewRecruit.eu. I will actually type that in. The googs for you. There you go. Highly recommend that. The UI there is also not great, but I think its warnings are a lot more helpful.
Yeah. If you've ever tried to put together a 10-man chosen unit, like you'll never ever use the GW app again because it's like that. That data sheet is such a grab bag of different war gear. It's ridiculous.
And that's after they like made it easier, right?
Yeah, it's like you got to have 2 with the paired accursed weapons, 2 with the power hammers, a mix of like, oh yeah, and you want to make sure the power hammer or the power fists rather have a plasma gun. I think and then you've got a mixture of combi weapons in there too. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah. See, Lex guys. Yeah.
So I'm going to back up slightly. Blair Brook is saying that they would like different melee weapons. I don't personally care. I think like just having Nemesis force weapons actually means like I have all my stuff modeled completely differently now. All my new Terminators I've built, I've got some guys with hammers, some guys with pole arms, some guys with swords, some guys with falchions, and I really like that personally, that it just looks better on the table. Lots of folks have been like, well, what if our Justicar could have a hammer? I'm fine with that, I guess. At 9th, we had access to hammers. They were 10 points each. Nobody brought them. Unless it was a meme. Or you had 10 points left. You'd throw it on like 1 Justicar just for giggles.
Yeah. They were pretty hilarious on Paladins, but it was mainly just like for funsies. Because you could give them, you could give them the +1 to hit, and now your hammers are hitting on 2s. Ain't bad, but
I don't know. Like, my question is like, what would they make that profile? Because there are, like Codiaz has a demon hammer on his sheet, and it's like strength 10. Okay, is it still gonna be 2 damage, devastating wounds? Because if you do that, we basically have heavy thunder hammers that Deathwatch have, but we just have it on everybody. Or maybe it's strength 9. I don't remember, but it's better than normal thunder hammers, which makes sense. We're Grey Knights, we're more elite, blah blah blah. But like, where do you draw the line on like, are we strength 8 but damage 3? Are we are we strength 9 damage 3 no dev wounds? I don't know. Like what would you even make that profile? And honestly, just because they do make it strength 10 doesn't mean it's anti-tank. A lot of the tanks are T11 or higher.
Yep.
So like you haven't given us anti-tank. We don't have rerolls. So like I don't give a shit if you give me like personally, I don't care if you give me a hammer. It doesn't seem to really mathematically matter.
Yeah.
Like thematically it's weird to be called the hammer, right? And then not have hammers, but
yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Like I lamented the loss of the demon hammer, but like as someone now with a little more limited hobbying time, I like the fact that my 30 Terminators, I'm not gonna have to snap off arms and paint stuff to keep them competitive, and like it's nice. My only wish that is that instead of as like a consolidation prize for like losing hammers, like they made Nemesis weapons strength 7, like the custodes.
strength 7 would be amazing, or lethal hits or lance or something would also yeah. But then again, you can't like every single model we have in our whole codex has like Nemesis force weapons. So if you give everybody lance, then how's that look for the
Lance would be crazy,
like on the balance, right? So
yeah, Lance would be kind of gnarly. I just like it's so depressing when you go into a T12 thing and you're like, oh, I'm only going 6s.
yeah.
Just
No, it's like I am counting on rolling a lot of 6s on the charge because I have a Terminator unit with, you know, lethal hits. Hope I get a whole bunch of 6s. Oh, I rolled under normal. Oh, I'm just dropping you to like a 5-up. You save most of them, right? Yeah. So Codia's hammer, at least right now, is strength 9 minus 3 damage. So it's both of those things, but it's not dev wounds. So like again, that makes us really good at killing elite infantry, but we already kind of do that through just strength of like the number of attacks we have. So
yeah.
What were you gonna say? I was gonna engage with chat. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was gonna pick out Lex's question about a new GK.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go too. So take it away, man.
Here we go. I want a Brutalis Dreadknight, a melee focused only Dreadknight
with like, multi-melts.
Yeah, just multi-melt is coming out of the shoulders.
That's what it has.
Yeah.
They have that.
But no, I think like having something that is legitimately terrifying in melee would be pretty cool. Like
so the the death company Dreadnought.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. It just keeps
you can fight infinitely, yeah.
Pinballing around the board, killing everything it touches. No, but like just have something that like kind of captures the spirit of like what Dreadknights used to be in you know,
like 7th or 6th or 5th
edition even, right? Where like the Nemesis sword was awesome. Like the strike profile.
Oh, Dreadknights?
Yeah, Dreadknight.
Oh, I thought you said Dreadnought. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was trying to think back to when Dreadnoughts were good, which I think was 8th, and that's when they could cannon, astral aim auto cannon from behind walls. But
like a Brutalis Dreadknight.
Got right? it. Yeah.
So like something that's melee focused. Maybe it's you give it anti-monster, anti-vehicle keywords. And then like it only gets like one ranged weapon slot, but it cruises. Like it's like
what about so the like tech marines are standing around on Titan and they turn and they're like, what about no guns but 2 weapons?
Oh,
like
dang.
2 melee weapons. and then the rest of them are like, why didn't we think of that before? And then
Send this man to Mars.
Like, yeah, all right, hear me out.
Either that or like maybe like prognosticars would be as like a.
That's.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I think my want list for units, like fresh new units, is I want some kind of interceptor leader, because we don't have one at all. Like there's
Hyperion, just
exactly. That's exactly where I'm going. Is I think you could bring Hyperion into the Grey Knight army in two ways. One, you make him a like prognosticar, epic hero, whatever. And maybe he does something like you can reroll all armors or all saves of one or something, right? Like he can see the future and he's helping the like unit, be more durable. Or he could be young Hyperion and he's a interceptor leader, and then you can like because in the books he was an interceptor. He bamfed all over the place, and he had his warding save. Right, and you could stick him in with an interceptor unit, and I think that would be fun. I don't know what his special ability would be in that case.
You can have it be like Blade Breaker, and just like have like 6s improve AP of 1 or something like that. Like
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean just which on like a 10-man interceptor squad, that's 30 attacks from the normal interceptors.
Yeah.
Or like, you could be boring and do like reroll hit rolls of 1 or +1 to hit or +1 to wound or, whatever. Yeah. Like there's all kinds of stuff they could do.
Or you give them anti-monster vehicle.
I mean, just like bring back the Melt-A-Bomb keyword, man. Like that'd be cool.
Dude. We've got grenades though.
That's true, but you're not gonna pop even one Chimera, you're not gonna, unless you can't, even if you roll the luckiest you could possibly roll, you can't pop like
max 6.
A light APC, yeah.
You'll get it with the Storm Bolters after.
Yeah, I think those would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hesitate because we only have 11 unique data sheets. I hesitate to do anything that's too, like, there's that rumor that we're gonna get like a grav tank or something.
Yeah.
I just don't like the Drago model remake makes a lot more sense to me than Grey Knights just get a grav tank. Like our thing is we're fast because we teleport everywhere. It's not we're fast because we need bikes or a grav tank or and I think that's kind of neat. Like it's our own niche is that like we don't have cavalry units because we don't need them. So
or like a super heavy Dreadknight, right? The thing they call in when it's like a greater demon of Khorne. Like,
well, that's the whole. Oh man, this is actually like if you want to talk about rewriting something, right? Like the whole point of a Dreadknight is that they actually built it so that one Grey Knight could go against a greater demon, right? So like make that data sheet greater demon. Take a greater demon data sheet.
Or T11.
Make it light side, increase the points accordingly, right? Like in one page rules, the Dreadknight data sheet is 800 points. And it fucks. Like it is scary. It is super frightening. And I love the idea of like, oh yeah, no, there's no list with 3 of these things. You can't fit it in a 2,000 point list. Like you could bring 2. Right? Like, I think it would be great if it was like, no, this is a 450 point model. Like this is an investment and his data sheet matches. Like if its data sheet was like Shalaxi's, Shalaxi's data sheet is monstrous. That thing is so good.
Yeah.
Like it reduces attacks of units in engagement range with it by 1, -1 to hit. Like, that would be
the first time I ran into Shalaxi was actually at the NoobHammer Invitational, and I like charged
Was it
my
Alex?
I charged
Yeah.
my 10-man Terminator brick into it, and I'm like, all right, we're popping the dev wound strategy. This is gonna be good. And then he's like, by the way, you're -1 damage, -1 to, or no, it was -1 to hit, and then -1 attack.
Yeah, -1
And I'm like,
attack. Yeah.
and I'm like, uh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Well,
do
my
this.
throughput just went down by 40%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then like Drago being my favorite person ever, like he managed to roll like 4 6s when I had the dev wound strat popped, and I'm like, this is when you pop off. Like, I need those to just be regular hits, man, for the anti-demon dev wound thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then he lethal hits. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then
I
he
gotcha.
gets a mess of lethal hits, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Now those are all normal. It's just wound.
normal saves.
Normal
now, bro.
saves. Yeah. No, I think that'd be great. Like, I want the age of the 6 Dreadknights to be gone because you can only fit 2 of them in a list because they're so expensive. But they also like, the model is huge. It's bigger than a like I have frequently reminded people of this. The base and the model is larger than an armature. Like significantly larger.
Yep.
And like the data sheet is maybe on par except for in combat.
It's T8. Every time I've explained that to someone, they're like, no, it's got to be like T9. I'm like, nope.
I mean, the 4-up invol's pretty clutch, right? Like, I don't want to harp too much, but I would definitely like, even if they made like Dreadknight an epic hero and then just made it like 650 points of just like carnage, that would be fucking awesome. But because I think not that I've absorbed all the Green Knight lore available, but I've read one book where a Green Knight jumped into a Dreadknight. And it proceeded to absolutely lay waste. Yeah, because it's your Dreadknights still make me sad when I look at my Disco Lures. Oh, but your Disco Lures had a great run in 9th.
They know what they did.
Yeah, exactly. One of them could kill anything it touches, and the other one couldn't die. But yeah, that's the thing. Like when I designed those, I did a video with Daniel Knight. In fact, I think it was my last video before this one, like 2 months ago, maybe even. Eesh. Yes, we're just giving you crap, Levi, and you know it. Like a lot of what I did when I was designing like those detachments with Daniel is I'm like, what would I like to play, but also what isn't over the top, right? It's super easy to build something that's wickedly powerful, right? So like what I really liked in that detachment idea is I had a preserver's detachment where the Dreadknight or the Dreadnoughts could attach to Terminators and Paladins as a leader. That would be cool. Because it gives them the reroll aura. There were some cool enhancements I gave them. It gives them that like leader protection because even though they're Dreadnoughts, they're not that fast. They're not that tanky. I thought that was neat. And they gained, I think in that detachment specifically, they gained the, abilities like Deep Strike that they don't have in the index. So that's another thing we could do just to make us kind of like set ourselves apart. There are options. There are design things out there.
I don't disagree with you on that. Paladins needing to be Custodes level data sheet. But
I mean that'd be cool too. Like if the Paladins were Custodes level data sheet, but you can only bring like one squad or something. I don't know. That might be cool too.
Yeah.
Because in the lore, what? A paladin has to complete like 666 trials, and
Yeah,
one of
they aren't
the
even.
and the final
Yeah.
sets are like they have to kill one, not greater. I don't think it's a greater demon of each god, but it's like it's something like that.
Yeah, you got to kill like middle management demons.
The worst kind.
The worst kind. They ask you to fill out expense reports.
Or it's no, they have to know those 666 litanies, and then they have to go through, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
the night trials and
Yeah, a whole bunch of
like,
crazy shit.
and like
yeah.
once they get through it, they're no longer part of the regular, like the original Brotherhood, and they like, I think they're like almost like the
They go to the
Kingsguard.
Hall of Champions, yeah, and
Yeah,
their primary role after that is to guard the Grandmasters and act as like I want to say consultants, and I know that's the wrong.
assistants to the
No, like
regional manager.
advisor. That's the word. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, assistant to the regional manager. Yeah. But, you know, then it's like, well, why not just make him a character?
Yeah.
You know, like, oh,
don't
this squad's led by a paladin, you know, I don't know. So
That's what brother captains and grandmasters are for.
okay, well, here's another thing. Why can't we attach our lieutenant equivalent to a unit being led by our captain equivalent?
Yeah,
there's a question. If we could put a brother captain in with a grandmaster, fuck yeah.
that'd be awesome.
That's a
Like,
600 point unit, but I'm doing it.
everything that it touches just dies.
Yeah,
And,
sustained hits?
Sustained lethal, like, or you do like the brother captain with Drago on a 5-man.
Yeah, sustained hits, lethal. Yeah, that'd be
Sustained hits
some.
on Dragos. Slammer, like that's good stuff.
Yeah, when I tell folks that Drago's sword is minus 4 AP, they're like, "What?
That
So,
doesn't that doesn't exist
No,
in
not
like
really.
it's like that's like Meltas, and like in melee, like it's, I think Angron's axe is AP4. I think that like that's the only one that comes to my mind.
Yeah, here, hold on. Angron's axe with axes with the strike specifically is AP4.
Yeah.
His sweep is AP2. So like I've sent Terminators into a Chimera, or you know, even a Lehman Russ, and it's like, yeah, you have a 2-up, so you have a 6 up save now, and they're like, what? Like, yeah, man, minus 4 here. Look at the data sheet. Like, holy shit. Yeah, he's straight up just like tin canned. I don't even know how many rhinos and
Yeah.
Anything with a 3-up save, he's just like just cuts his way into. Yeah.
Oh,
all right. Well, it is almost 11, and we're both dads.
Yeah.
And our babies wake up at a specific time, whether we're
whether we want to or not.
whether we're well rested or not. So
yeah.
Thank you everybody for swinging by. Thank you for your questions. We're always happy to help new players specifically. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that shit. Thanks for swinging by. We have some more ideas for some videos in the near future, so keep us in mind for all of your Grey Knight needs. And don't forget,